So welcome to Chicago, kind of down the road on the Grand Trunk Railroad,
Yeah,
as a
man.
matter of fact. You knew
Grand
that, right? It
West.
connects through Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
So you're kind of a neighborhood cat and welcomes. So in addition to your work with Grand Funk and of course your solo work, and you've also been a part of Ringo Starr's All-Star Band. So I'm kind of curious, when you met Ringo for the very first time, the legend has it that Grand Funk sold out Shea Stadium faster than the Beatles did in 1965. When you met him for the first time, did he know that story and did he make you explain like Lucy? You got a lot of explaining to do.
No, we never talked about it. I may have mentioned it to him, however, in passing. But he is a beautiful man inside there. It's just, you know, that poor soul. If he puts a baseball cap on and sunglasses and he goes out, he looks like Ringo with a baseball cap and sunglasses on. I mean, you can't disguise that mug he's got. And so he's constantly bombarded by people who just want an autograph or just want something, but everybody wants something from a Beatle. They are infamous. They are during their time, they were anointed ones, just like Elvis. He was anointed, man. It was like, wow, what the hell? Look at all these people, man. They are loving this guy. I loved Elvis. I went and seen Jailhouse Rock at the drive-in theater, man, with my aunt and uncle and a bunch of people. It was great.
I bet. It's interesting. You're talking about the anointed and wanting something. It recalls something that John Lennon said that I read recently, where, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody did something for him as opposed to the other way around. And he remarked that it was highly unusual because people didn't do things for him. It was always the other way around, which is what you just said.
Yeah, yeah. It's just kind of expected, but
Right.
but with Ringo, we were in Tokyo before we started our tour there. They did a press interview, and all these people showed up, and from magazines and what have you. And this little gal comes up, Byrd, and she says, "I would like to ask Mr. Farner a question." So I stand up, and we are up on the stage, and we got this long table, and the band is kind of both sides of Ringo. Ringo centered in the middle, kind of like the Last Supper picture, and the band members are going down the table. So I stand up, and I'm to Ringo's right, and she said, "Mr. Farner, what is it like playing with Beatle?" And I go, "Honey," I points to Ringo. I said, "Ringo puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like I do. He stands up, 'Thank you, brother.' And he comes over and gives me a big hug for recognizing him just as a man, brother.
Hmm.
That was a real genuine moment between Ringo and I. And from there on out, we were good.
When I shook his hand, one thing that struck me is he's, in stature, he's a more diminutive guy, but his hands are as big as baseball mitts and the grip. He's got strong hands.
Yeah, dude. Hanging on to them drumsticks.
Exactly. I was thinking to myself, there's a reason why he gets that really distinctive sound and big sound out of that small kid is because he's got strong hands and big ones.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's a great drummer and he drums inverse, right? He
Yeah,
technically drums incorrectly,
yes,
which is why
exactly.
nobody can replicate what he does.
Right. Not even his son.
Who plays with the Who these days?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
he played on the tour that I was on with Ringo, and Zach is a monster, buddy. Oh, it's a pleasure to play in front of somebody who kicks ass like that.
Were you a Beatle fan when they were coming up? I mean, you guys were just, a few years later when you guys debuted, but you were obviously playing already at that point.
Yeah, I was a Beatle fan. I mean, how could you not be? I grew my hair out because I saw all these women when those when those guys went on Ed Sullivan. And I saw him screaming for these guys with the long hair. I went, okay, that's where I'm going to start right there. And I let it grow.
Well, you weren't alone. There was a bunch of other people too. Tom Petty, Gene Simmons from Kiss. There's a bunch of people, Billy Joel, who have pointed to, that Ed Sullivan show as the moment where all of the dots were connected, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And for you as well. And what a neat treat and sort of bucket list thing to be able to play with one of them later on.
Yeah, man.
Favorite road story from over the years? Do you have any Spinal Tap moments where something went wrong or something that you still laugh about to this day? Because, the more time you accumulate in this business, the more funny things, especially in retrospect, happen, right?
Yeah, man. Well, long before any wireless microphones or guitars, we had a couple of really long coil cords, like the old telephones that you could stretch it from one room to the other,
Mm-hmm.
coil cords. And that was plugged into my guitar. And I could get anywhere on the stage with that setup. We were in London playing in Hyde Park. Humble Pie opened for us there. They opened our whole European tour, but we did this free concert. There's 65,000 people in Hyde Park. And I did not know that the lighting director had put dance wax on the stage. And so there's this moment that I launch and I'm on my knees sliding across the stage. And I'm thinking, man, I'm going awful fast. Dude, I went right off the front of the stage and I land on my feet in front of all these bikers that are standing there. And they go, yeah. And I keep playing like it's part of the show, like I intended to do that. The thing about, being a professional, when you're up on that stage and you do something that is totally not in the script, it is like you really klutz it, then you do it again as though, you just do it again. And that kind of goes, about half of them go, oh, that was planned that way. So I just kept playing and I could not move. I couldn't take a step forward because, dude, I found out where the end of that chord was right there. That is a moment in time that I will never forget, my friend.
I bet not. And you told it like it just happened just a few seconds ago.
Yeah.
That's a great one. That's a fantastic one. Here's another interesting question that I like to ask people because there's always a cool story behind it. For me, I was the last job I had before I got into show business was I was a fast food cook and a paper boy. If you ask George Thorogood, he had a juice stand to pay for some of his guitars, the last job that he had before he was able to go pro. What was the last job you had before you were able to go pro?
Well, my
Dream
friend,
job, as they say, right?
yeah, man. But I didn't last long at jobs. I was more of a freelance, and but we were making some good cash. A friend of mine and I took an old galvanized wash tub. It was, 2.5 feet, 3 foot uh, across, a diameter on it. And we put it inside an old truck inner tube and blew just enough air into that inner tube to where we could float this thing even when it was full of golf balls. And what we did was we got in Kersley Creek and pulled this thing on a rope and we dove down in all of these holes with a mask on and a snorkel in the fins, and we would get golf balls by the hundreds, brother, out of these holes. Because the IMA golf course where they did the Buick Open for years up there ran the Kersley Creek ran through there, and all the balls would wash downstream across our property. Well, we'd get in at the bridge on our property, and we knew where all the holes were. So we'd have several hundred balls, and then we'd get to up to the golf course, and then we'd take a bag at a time and go up to the golf ball washer and wash all these golf balls, and then stand over to the side. And then when a foursome would come through, you guys want to buy some golf balls? And then they would go like, what do you got? They would see all of the ones with the smiles. We'd sell them, for driving balls, 2 for $1. And then good balls we'd sell for $2. Man, we would always have $300-400 in our pocket, both of us, when the weekend was over. And we did that. And back then, $300-400, you weren't looking for insurance money for the car or fuel money for the car. It was a good gig, and nobody was my boss but me.
Well, you could say that you need a lot of balls to get into show business. So I think that was perfect, a perfect lead up. That's how you made money, and that's how you got your balls. And the next thing you know, you're in show business, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. That's right.
And that's how Mark Farner started the whole legend right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Right? And that's a damn good metaphor, brother.
Well, you can use it the next time. Next time you tell that story. Last question before we go, because I know a lot of people would probably want me to ask this question. How is the relationship with you and the other guys in Grand Funk these days? Over the years, you've gotten back together and reconvened and done some things. How is that relationship today?
Well, it's good with me, as I've told many interviewers, Brother Byrd. If it was up to me, because as you referred to earlier on, I was a Beatle fan. But the thing I could not understand was, why wouldn't these Beatles, long as, when they were all sucking air, why wouldn't they just bury the hatchet, get back together for the sake of the fans that gave them the fame and gave them that stage to stand on, gave them the lives that they were living? Why couldn't they, for the fans' sake, come back out? Because I wanted to see them live. But just between you and me and the fence post, I wanted to see these guys. And I know that there are fans out there, Grand Funk fans, that would love to see Mark, Don, and Mel back on stage together, even if we didn't even look at each other. Because, my friend, as you already know, Byrd, there's no 3 people in this world that can put that sound out but Mark, Don, and Mel. I don't care who they get. They go out as Grand Funk, but they don't tell anybody that I'm no longer in the band. They've been doing this for 20 some years. It's legal, but how honest is it? It's really not honest, in my opinion, my humble opinion. But even in spite of that, I would, in a New York second, I would get back on the stage with these 2 guys, because of the funk fans. The Grand Funk fans would love to see that happen. But the last interview, somebody told me they saw an interview that Don Brewer had done. Of course, Mel Shocker is never going to be in an interview. He's just not, he doesn't like it. He doesn't want to be put in front of a microphone or a camera or anything. He doesn't like it. Brewer does like it, however, and told the interviewer, when he asked him the same question, brother, that you are asking me right now, Brewer responded and said, I've always said never say never. Yeah, he's been saying that for 24 years. He says, but now I'm saying, nah, it ain't going to happen. So now you know both sides of the story, because I believe that's where his heart is. And it's too bad. But, egos are like that in people. Even if when somebody does something wrong, and then it's discovered that it was wrong, that person, for some reason, does not want to confess that they did something wrong, especially if it's a man. Men got pride like nationwide pride. I'm talking about, but it's okay because I forgive those guys. I had to because otherwise that would eat your lunch, and I'm not going to allow anybody to manipulate me or any kind of feeling that's beyond forgiveness to manipulate me because brother, I know what love is, and love is forgiveness, and we all got to set ourselves free. I've been doing it, and I do it every morning, man. Before I step my foot out onto the floor, I say, Lord, help me see if there's any more anchors in me. I know they're in there, but all of these notions of indebtedness that I've experienced in my life, I just pointed out to me so I can take the bolt cutters to that chain and cut that anchor loose. I want to be free. And so I set those guys free. They can do what they want to do. But as I said, as legal as it may be, it surely is not honest.
Well, there you have it. Let's hope, in the future, potentially before, it's too late, that would
Yeah,
be really nice for all of you, I think, would be
yeah, Byrd.
one last time. Thank you so much for taking the time with us by camera. We really, really appreciate you welcoming us into your home and your studio. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, brother.